What do you do when the person you trust most, the one who knows your dreams, your plans, and your biggest ideas, turns around and stabs you in the back? This is the story of how betrayal sparked an unexpected rise. It all started during our final year at university. My name is Tyler, and I had one goal: to launch a unique fitness app that would revolutionize how people work out from home, personalized routines, AI-based tracking, meal plans, and mental health integration. I've been obsessed with the idea for 2 years, building notes, mock-ups, sketches, hell, even flowcharts on my dorm room walls. And through it all, the one person who sat beside me, who heard me rant for hours and cheered me on, was Mason, my best friend since freshman year. We were inseparable, or so I thought. He was a smooth talker, good with people, had that charm that made everyone instantly like him. I was the quiet builder, the thinker, the planner. We'd always joked about starting something together, but this fitness app? This was mine. I even gave Mason access to some of the prototype documents, thinking he might help me polish a few things. Then came the bombshell. A week before our graduation, during a university startup showcase, Mason walked up to the stage and confidently presented my idea. Same name, same concept, same features. Except he rebranded it slightly and made himself look like the genius behind it all. I sat in the back row, frozen. My hands were clenched. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'd poured my heart into this for years, and my own best friend had just stolen it, polished it, and was presenting it as if it were born from his imagination. He even called it our dream and said, "I've been working on this for months." I wanted to scream, to rush the stage and expose him, but I didn't. Not yet. After the event, I confronted him privately, trying to stay calm. "You stole my idea," I said. He didn't even blink. "You were never going to launch it." "I just made it real," he replied, smug as ever. That was the moment everything changed for me. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I got to work. Over the next 2 months, while Mason basked in the university's spotlight and even scored a small angel investor, I went underground. I deleted my old designs, rebuilt everything from scratch with better features, better branding, and a name I had secretly reserved long ago, Pulse One. I studied the tech stack deeper, connected with a few developers and niche Discord servers, and even hired a freelance UI designer with my savings. Every night, while Mason posted selfies and interviews on Instagram about his idea, I was quietly building a beast. I knew his app wasn't even functional yet. It was all surface-level hype, all fluff and no substance. What Mason didn't know was that I had insights he didn't, like actual user pain points, psychology, and years of feedback from fitness forums. 3 months later, I launched Pulse One publicly, quietly at first, targeting micro-influencers and Reddit fitness communities. It blew up faster than I expected. Within a week, we had 10,000 downloads. Then 50,000. I still remember the day Pulse One was featured in TechCrunch as the smartest fitness app no one saw coming. Mason called me that evening. "What the hell is this?" He snapped. "You copied me." I laughed for the first time in months. "No, Mason. I created this. You stole a skeleton. I built a living thing." His app, Fedora, had barely passed 5,000 downloads and had started to receive complaints about glitches and limited features. The investor who backed him pulled out. Rumors started swirling on campus, especially when people realized Pulse One's domain had been purchased a full year earlier, under my name. Mason's reputation began to crack, and fast. But I wasn't done. I had proof, emails, voice memos, dated drafts, and even a recorded brainstorming session with timestamps. With help from a tech YouTuber I had networked with, I released a detailed video explaining how Pulse One was truly built and subtly hinted at Mason's betrayal without even naming him. The internet did the rest. People dug up old posts, screenshots, and timelines, and within 48 hours, Mason was trending for all the wrong reasons. His app plummeted in ratings. Meanwhile, I received offers, partnerships, investors, even a merger proposal from a major fitness brand. But I wasn't just building an app anymore. I was building a movement. And Mason? He was watching from the sidelines, knowing he'd tried to steal my future, but only handed me the fuel I needed to make it real. While Pulse One continued to skyrocket in downloads, traction, and investor interest, Mason was left scrambling to explain the sudden crash of Fedora. And trust me, the fall was brutal. His investor publicly withdrew, citing ethical concerns, and within days, his app's user base tanked. But I wasn't watching with popcorn. I was working harder than ever. I hired a small but fierce team of developers, nutritionists, and branding experts. We rolled out features Mason hadn't even dreamed of: personalized meal planning using AI, voice-activated workout coaching, real-time feedback on form through camera tracking. People weren't just using Pulse One, they were raving about it. The reviews exploded. Influencers made videos titled, "This app changed my life," and I was invited to speak at a major fitness and tech summit in New York. I stood on that stage, knowing full well Mason would see the replay, and I made sure to tell the story, not the betrayal, but the rise. This app was born from years of quiet obsession, I said. It wasn't about going viral. It was about solving a real problem in the most human way. And just like that, Pulse One was no longer just an app. It became a brand people trusted. But Mason, he wasn't done trying. He reached out again, this time playing the victim. "People think I'm a fraud," he said. "You've ruined everything for me." I didn't even respond. Not out of spite, but because he still didn't get it. I hadn't ruined anything, he had. The world didn't hate him because I told them to. They saw the timeline. They connected the dots. I just gave them truth and let them decide. But Mason's pride was a dangerous thing. One morning, I got an alert that Fedora had launched a sudden update, one that looked suspiciously similar to Pulse One's latest features. The layout, the dashboard, even the meal tracker design, it was practically identical. I didn't panic. I documented everything. I called my lawyer. See, months earlier, I had trademarked Pulse One's core designs and interface layouts. Mason had crossed a line, and now it wasn't just personal, it was legal. A cease and desist landed in his inbox that same afternoon. He tried to push back, tried to rally sympathy online, but screenshots don't lie. Within days, Apple and Google removed his app for copyright violation. Fedora was dead. And the final nail in the coffin? One of the largest fitness influencers on TikTok posted a side-by-side comparison of Pulse One versus Fedora with the caption, "This guy really thought stealing would get him ahead." Sad. It went viral. Mason's reputation was buried. And me? I was just getting started. But the craziest part was still ahead. Because what I didn't expect, what I couldn't have predicted, was that Mason's betrayal would end up opening the biggest door of my life. One that would force me to decide just how far I was willing to go to protect what I built. Success is a strange thing. It amplifies everything. The good gets better, but the bad? It grows close. After Mason's app was taken down and his reputation shattered, I figured things would cool off. But instead, they heated up. One morning, I woke up to find my email flooded with alerts. Someone had tried to breach our backend servers. It was a failed attempt, but it triggered every alarm. My tech lead, Alicia, confirmed that it wasn't random, it was a targeted intrusion. We tightened security, rolled out two-factor authentication across all platforms, and even brought in a cybersecurity consultant. A week later, I got an anonymous message. "Hope you're enjoying my spotlight, thief." I knew it was Mason. I couldn't prove it yet, but the desperation in his tone screamed his identity. At this point, I didn't just feel anger. I felt disbelief. The man who stole my idea was now accusing me of theft, lashing out because he couldn't build anything of his own. While Mason was spiraling, Pulse One was climbing. We crossed 1 million active users, raised a fresh round of funding, and I was approached by a global gym chain for integration into their workout systems. My dream was now a full-scale ecosystem. But then came the gut punch. Mason showed up at my office. Not through the front door, not with security, he waited outside the parking lot. And when I stepped out after a long day, there he was. Hollow eyes, trembling hands, and that same twisted smirk. "You think this is over?" he asked. "You just got lucky. You don't deserve any of this." I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I didn't get lucky, Mason. I worked while you schemed. I built while you bragged. That's the difference." He laughed, but it was empty. He left, and I thought that was the end of it. Until the scandal hit. A blog post circulated online, anonymously published, claiming Pulse One had stolen data from another app, had shady investor ties, and that I was faking my backstory. It was garbage, all of it, but the post went viral. Mason had found his final weapon: smear tactics. I immediately went into damage control. My team and I released every document, every email, every dated record of our journey. We were clean. But the internet doesn't wait for facts. Sponsors paused, investors grew nervous, and downloads plateaued. I was furious, but I kept calm. We launched a transparent campaign called #BuiltWithTruth, sharing behind-the-scenes videos, developer journeys, and unfiltered user stories. Real people, real results. Slowly, the tide turned. People saw who we were. And then, out of nowhere, someone emailed me, a former contractor Mason had worked with. He had proof, messages, voice recordings, even a draft of the fake blog post, all authored by Mason. With his consent, we released the evidence. It was like a digital thunderstorm. Mason was done. Again. This time, not just as a failed founder, but as a liar, a saboteur. Companies blacklisted him. His university revoked his access to alumni funding, and he became a cautionary tale in entrepreneurship groups. And me? I stood taller. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I knew now that what I had wasn't just a company. It was resilience, tested and earned. But even after all this, there was one last test left. One that would force me to confront the very thing I had spent years trying to avoid, the possibility of Mason trying to crawl back into my life, not for war, but for mercy. 6 months passed. Pulse One wasn't just surviving anymore. It was thriving. We had secured a multi-million-dollar partnership with a global fitness brand, integrated with smartwatches and gym equipment, and we're now expanding into Europe and Asia. I finally moved into a place that didn't feel like survival, but like home. I started sleeping better, smiling more, believing that maybe, just maybe, the worst was behind me. Until one cold morning, I got an unexpected knock at my office door. It was Mason. Not unannounced like before, he had scheduled a meeting. My assistant was nervous about letting him in, but I told her it was okay. He walked in wearing a wrinkled shirt, no confidence left in his posture, and eyes that looked like they'd run out of fight. He sat down and said the words I never thought I'd hear. I was wrong. He admitted it. The sabotage, the article, the hacking attempts, everything. He had nothing left to lose, and he needed help. He wanted a job. Not at Pulse One. He knew that bridge had burned, but somewhere, anywhere, to start again. I could have laughed. I could have reminded him of everything he stole, every lie he spread, every dark night I'd spent wondering if my dream would survive. But I didn't. I looked him in the eye and said, "You need to figure out who you are without stepping on other people to get there." I gave him the number of a career counselor I trusted and said that if he was serious about rebuilding himself, it needed to start with humility. And that was it. No revenge, no final punchline. Just closure. Because sometimes, the real revenge is proving that you didn't need to stoop to their level to rise. Pulse One went on to win innovation awards, and I was named one of the top young entrepreneurs in the country. But the best moment? It wasn't the recognition or the money. It was walking into a random gym and hearing someone say, "This app changed my life." That's when I knew it wasn't just about proving someone wrong. It was about becoming someone better. And that, right there, was the real victory. Hey, if this story hit you right in the feels or